Namaskar friends, welcome to session 17 in our course on work system design. So currently we are in the 4th week of our discussion on this topic, and as you know the course is divided into 12 weeks. Already we have finished the first 2 weeks based on the topic of productivity and tried to understand that why do we need to conduct work study, how we can calculate, what are the various measurement techniques for productivity, what are the causes of low productivity, what are the factors affecting productivity, how we can calculate productivity, what are the productivity improvement techniques were some of the lectures that we have covered during our discussion on productivity during the first and second week of our discussion. In third week our focus was primarily on work study and try to understand the concept of work study, also to try to understand what is basic content, what is the excess content or excess work content, and how or what are the factors leading to excess work content, what can be the reasons, causes of excess work content, and what can be the remedies or the plausible reasons or not the reasons but plausible areas in which we can put our efforts to reduce these causes or to eliminate these causes which lead to excess work content. We have also studied during our topic on work study that if we take man as a productive element, what are the advantages and limitations? If we take machine as a productive element, what are the advantages and limitations? We have also tried to understand just the basic concept of the techniques employed for work study, that is the method study and work measurement. So in third week we have laid out a foundation for the further discussion on this topic of work system design. And now in fourth week we started our discussion with method study. As I have already indicated in the beginning of previous session that our target primarily is now to understand 3 important topics which are relevant for the work system design. In 4 weeks we will be covering the most important topic or the major topic of method study, and then we will focus on work measurement, and finally there will be 2 weeks of discussion on ergonomics, which is an important aspect when we are designing any work system. So in method study, in the very first week we have covered the basic concept, definition of method study, and tried to see that how method study can be conducted. Basically we have seen what are the advantages of conducting the method study, what is the scope of method study, what are the various objectives of method study. So all these brief topics were covered in the previous session, that is session number 16. Today, as you see on your screen, the title of the topic is method study, steps involved in method study. So we will see, if you remember the definition that we have covered in the previous session, it is a systematic technique. So systematic means that there is a step-by-step procedure which has to be employed in order to solve or in order to attack any problem using the various graphical tools or various standard procedures that are followed in method study. So there will be a step-by-step process. If we follow the step-by-step process, we will invariably be able to develop a better, a cost efficient, a effective, a efficient method for doing the work, which will also be productive, it will be safe, it will be environment friendly. So there can be n number of criteria for comparing the 2 different methods, that is existing method and the proposed method. So our target major objective is to work upon the plant and equipment, to work upon the material handling system, to work upon the persons involved in performing the task, to work upon the environment that we are providing to the workers for accomplishing their task. So these are the focus area. Why do we need to focus on these areas? Because we need to improve our current method of doing the job. How we can achieve that? We can achieve that by eliminating the unnecessary operations involved in the task, by simplifying the way we are conducting the work, as well as by combining 2 or 3 operations, by the use of certain assistive devices. There can be n number of approaches which can help us to improve the way we are doing our work. So today we are going to see that if we have a problem at hand, how we can solve the problem step by step. So on your screen now you can see flowchart depicting the steps involved in method study. And we will try to see today in today's discussion, maybe next 20-22 minutes, our focus primarily will be to understand each of these steps. So first one is select. Now if you go to any organization, a lot of work is being done. Maybe suppose a company is producing Excels, so there can be number of operations that are done to produce this Excel. Or if a company is producing a laptop, there can be so many operations, assembly operations, maybe somewhere manufacturing operations will also be there. So you are producing some parts, you are buying some parts, there will be some assembly taking place at some place. So there will be inspection taking place before the product is sent to the market. So there will be number of different types of operations being done in any organization. How to identify that in which area you are going to focus your work study efforts? It is not possible that you start attacking all areas simultaneously. So first you need to identify, you need to select that let us first start our work study from this particular area. As we have taken an example of investment casting process, so maybe the company may decide let us first focus on the investment casting procedure only, and let us try to improvise the way we are doing our investment casting process. So first one is identification, selection of a work on which we want to perform the method study. Second one is record, which is very important. So we have to systematically record all the information related to the work area or work sphere or work element that we have decided to analyze using the principles of work study. So recording may mean that how much quantity we are producing, how much time each operation is taking, or how much time each work element is taking, what is the sequence or route which is followed by the raw material before being converted into the final product. So all this information, how many people are involved, how many operations are being done, how many transportation motions are there, how many times we are inspecting a particular job. So all that thing will be scientifically and logically recorded and documented. So first one is identification, second one is recording, third one is examining. At many places we may find that the work is being done automatically, a portion of the work is being done automatically, or a section of the work is being done automatically. So we may feel that already we are using the best possible technology for this work, and currently there is no better method which can further reduce the time taken for this job, or may not reduce the involvement of manpower in this particular task. Then we say, okay, in this area we may not be able to get much benefits, so we may go and see that whatever area we have selected, not much improvements are possible. So then maybe we will go back and select another task on which we can perform the analysis using the techniques of work study. So maybe first 4 steps, if we identify a work, maybe for example using the current technology we are doing this work of recording the lectures. If somebody analyzes this particular work and say that whatever is the technology being followed, that is one of the best which is possible in today's scenario, then we may say, okay, there may not be much advantage of conducting the work study on this particular work, let us focus on some other area. So maybe the recording studio may be fine, but then there are other elements, there are other work elements involved where the work study procedure can be carried out. So then we will, if everything is going on maybe as per the level of performance or the desired level of performance, we may select some other work element for further analysis. But suppose we find that no, it is not okay, then we will do that, we can think of developing a better method for doing the job. Then the next stage will be developing a alternative, and there can be a list of alternatives. We cannot say that only one alternative we will develop and that will be the best solution. No, we may look for 4, 5, 6, 7 different alternatives. Then we will do a maybe scrutinizing each and every alternative based on certain criteria, and the best alternative then will be selected. So we will develop a better alternative, a best alternative for doing the same work. Then we have to install it. Install it means we have to put it into practice, we have to document it, we have to lay out a standard operating procedure for that better method or best method that we have developed doing the method study. And once it is documented, it is put into practice, we have to maintain it. The top management, the middle management, the supervisory staff has to ensure that whatever better method has been put into practice is followed by the workers. Many a times we see that the standard operating procedure is skipped, is not followed by the workers, and which has led to a lot of issues. Sometimes major accidents have taken place because the drivers or the pilots may not have followed the standard operating procedure or skipped the standard operating procedure. So we have to ensure, we have to maintain the SOP so that each and every worker performs the work as per the standard method which has been developed following the principles of method study. So this is the brief outline of the steps involved in developing a better method for conducting the work or for performing the tasks. So let us see now one by one. I think I have explained each one of these. So maybe in the next 15 minutes when we see each one of this with an example, probably it will become even more clear. So step 1 is job, task or process selection. So first thing is we have to select the work. Now maybe which work we will select. So common sense says that wherever we can foresee major advantages, where we can see that we will be able to make major profits, major changes, we will try to focus on that work. As I have given an example, maybe if we want to do a work study of this studio, we may not get major advantages because everything is more or less optimized. But if we focus on some other area where we see that lot of changes can be done and the work method can be improved significantly, we will try to focus on that. And that will involve considerations like economic considerations. If we put efforts, we definitely would love to get some returns. We are doing some investment in terms of our creativity, in terms of our time, in terms of our effort. So our investments must lead to certain positive returns. Technological considerations we have to take into account because currently we are following a standard method of recording. Maybe let us take the example of recording studio again. We are doing the recording process here. We may look for the technological advancements that have taken place in the last 2 years or last 1 year. There may be certain areas which we can further improve the way we are recording these lectures. Some technology can be there which can be included, incorporated, so that thing can be taken into account. That is another consideration. First consideration is economy, second consideration is technology, third consideration is human considerations. If while recording, suppose I am not feeling comfortable, I am sweating, so definitely we can work on the environment, we can work on the air conditioning system so that a recording person feels comfortable. So human consideration is there, technological considerations are there, as well as the economic considerations are there. So whenever we are selecting a work which we want to analyze using the principles of method study, we can focus on these 3 important words, that is the economic considerations, the technological considerations and the human considerations. Now economic considerations which will help us in selecting the work are cost effectiveness. That is, check whether the work study application would pay or not, whether we will get benefited in terms of money or not. For this, key profit giving costliest operations with largest waste scrap should be attacked first. So first point is, if we say which will help us to select the work is whether we will be benefited or not. Second one is costliest operations with largest waste and scrap. We can focus on these type of operations which are producing lot of scrap and which are involving lot of money. Bottleneck operations which are leading to problems repetitively. So then there are repetitive operations. From human consideration point of view, we have seen that 3 considerations are there. Which are these 3? Economic. So first one is related to economic. In selection we will see whether the efforts are going to pay back or not. So that is the economic consideration. Second one is also economic. We must focus on the high cost areas. Third one is bottleneck operations, which is maybe related to technological considerations. Repetitive operations, both technological as well as human considerations, because none of us like to do the same task again and again over a period of 8 hours, then in over a 40 hours in a week, or maybe month after month. So we don't want to do the same job again and again, and therefore the concept of job rotation, job enrichment have been introduced in the work study. So repetitive operations we can attack. Repeated material handling operations, which is also related to technology, should be studied. For locating most important operations, Pareto analysis could be used. So this is one technique which can be employed to find out that which causes we must attack so that we are able to get the maximum effects. So let us see what is Pareto analysis. Just a brief introduction about Pareto. It is a statistical technique in decision making. It is a simple technique for prioritizing problem solving work. So what we need to do, we need to prioritize what we are doing. There are 7 steps involved. So first one is selection of the problem. So maybe Pareto analysis may help us to select the work area where we need to put our efforts. How it will help? It will help us in prioritizing the problem solving work, so that the first piece of work you do resolve the greatest number of problems. So maybe you are able to identify one cause, but it may solve 4 or 5 different issues, or it may lead to solving of 4 or 5 different types of problems existing in the system. So that is, we need to identify those areas which will help us to solve the maximum problems. The Pareto principle, also known as the 80-20 rule, many of the learners may already be knowing about the Pareto analysis or the Pareto principle. 80-20 rule derived from the Italian economist Wilfred Pareto's observations, which states that, now this is, you can say, 80% of the effects comes from 20% of the causes. So what we need to identify? We need to identify, when we are selecting the work to be analyzed using the principles of work study or method study, we have to target this 20% causes. If we are able to target, if we are able to identify, if we are able to select these 20% causes and nip the evil in the bud, solve these problems, solve these causes, automatically the 80% effects will get improved. So that is the target, how to select the work to be analyzed using method study. Now know more about Pareto analysis. Just one case we have taken. The British National Health Service Institute for Innovation and Improvement uses the Pareto analysis. According to the British National Health Service Institute for Innovation and Improvement, you can see 80% of the interruptions, that is the effect, come from 20% of the people. 80% of equipment budget comes from 20% of the items. 80% of the decisions made in meetings come from 20% of the time spent in meeting. 80% of innovation comes from 20% of the staff. So 80% innovation, that is the effect. What is the cause? Only 20% staff members are causing that 80% innovation. So basically we need to identify that 20% causes which are affecting 80% of the output or leading to 80% of the effect. So we need to do a scientific analysis to identify that which work element, which work process, which operation, which method we need to find out, on which we will work, so that we are able to develop a better technique, better method of doing the work. The technological considerations we can see. The analysis involves application of work study for the selection of operations processes where new technology, for example automation, robotization, should be introduced. So this already we know. The economic consideration, technological consideration, human consideration. So we can identify the work which is more repetitive in nature, which is more involved. And if you refer back to our discussion where machine can be used as a productive element, we have seen the advantages and limitations. So if you focus on the advantages of using machine as a productive element, you will find out that where we should put our machines. And when we are analyzing the work being done in any industry or any organization, we must look for places where there are chances of automation, where there are chances of robotization. And today morning only I read in a newspaper, some engineers from Kerala have developed a robot which can go and help in the cleaning of the sewers. So maybe that cleaning of sewers many times, because of the poisonous gases generated there, lead to death of the workers, which is highly, you can say, not accepted, highly unacceptable. So these students have worked, and even today morning I read that they have been given an invitation by the Prime Minister office also to visit the office and make a presentation related to the technology that they have developed, the robot that they have developed. And they are already implementing this thing in the state of Kerala. So that is one place where the human cannot go, there is a risk to his life. So at that place we can use the robots for doing this cleaning of the sewers. That is one good technology which has been developed. Now there are people who will say, if everything is automated, people will lose their jobs. So that also in the newspaper they have mentioned, these innovators, these developers, these engineers, they have highlighted that the technology, they have made it so simple that the people who were doing the things manually, they will train these people so that they only operate these robots and lead to cleaning of the sewers. So it is not going to lead to unemployment, it is going to enhance the technical skills of the people who are already involved doing the same task which they were doing manually. Now they will do it using the technology. So technological considerations are also very, very important when we select the area where we have to put our efforts. Then the human considerations, which are already I think I have highlighted. Analysis involves the location of those operations which present the sources of dissatisfaction. Already I have told, repetitive work you are doing, people may not like that work, or annoyance to the workers due to fatigue or monotony or unsafe environment. So three things are there. One is fatigue, second is monotony, same work again and again, and third is safety or unsafe environment. So this gives us an idea that when we are trying to locate that where we have to put our effort, which work element we have to select, which work area we have to select, where the workers are getting fatigued, the work is very monotonous in nature, it is unsafe, we must first attack that area using the principles of method study. So first and foremost is getting the right work, right area where we must put our efforts. Once we have identified the right area, then we have to use our common sense, we have to use the scientific principles of engineering, and then try to develop the better method. So once that is done, then the most commonly used recording techniques are charts and diagrams. Once you have identified the work, then you can use the techniques that we are going to study in today's, maybe we will just outline the techniques in today's session. Maybe in the next subsequent sessions we will focus on each one of the technique, that how to record the information. So there are standard recording techniques. I think in the next slide we have a list. So we can record the process or the work that we have identified to be analyzed using the outline process chart, flow process chart, two-handed chart, the left hand right hand chart. Then based on time we can have multiple activity charts, simultaneously motion SIMO charts are there. All these charts we will see one by one in our course on work system design. So first thing is you have to logically, scientifically select the work which you want to analyze. We have done a lot of discussion on that today. Second is record all the facts related to that work, and what will help us in this task, all these charts and diagrams will help us. There are diagrams like flow diagram, string diagram, cycle graph, chronocycle graph. All these techniques will help us to document, to record the way we are doing the work, or to document the procedure, document the method by which we are doing the work. mind you, current method only. We have not yet developed any new method. The current method only we will document with the help of these charts and diagrams. Then we will examine the information, and one important thing on your screen you can see, we have to examine it critically. Critically means we have to see where there is scope of improvement, whether there is a scope of improvement or not. If not, then we may switch over to some other work and analyze the work where we find some scope for improvement. The objective of critically examining the recorded fact of an existing method, must I again address, we are currently focusing on the current method, existing method only, is to determine the true reasons underlying each event and to draw up a systematic list of all the possible improvement, systematic list of all the possible improvement for later development into a new and improved method. So we have to find out, and if we cannot make a systematic list of probable improvement, then maybe we will refer back again to selection and try to see that we find out a work element or we find out some area, work sphere where we can put our efforts. The facts recorded in process chart can be examined critically by applying the questioning technique. So what is this questioning technique? It can be purpose based. Why is the activity necessary, or why is this work necessary? Why at this place only? Then maybe person based also, who is doing this work, why he is the only person doing this work. There can be number of questions which can be put towards why this work is being done, and then this way, because that way and why will help us to identify that there can be better methods of doing this work. So after examining, we have to develop the new method, develop the most practical, economical, again the criteria is listed, and effective method by considering real limitations of the situation. So if everything is available in abundance, we need not study all these techniques. So there will be certain constraints. So under those constraints, we have to develop a new, better, practical, cost efficient, effective, productive, profitable, safe method for doing the work. After developing the alternatives and their consequences, a final selection based on an appropriate criterion. Now this criterion is very, very important and may not be a universal criterion. Now depending upon the requirement, the criterion may change. Depending upon the type of work, the criterion may change. For example, we are doing the method study operation in a banking sector, so the criterion may be different. Suppose we are doing the method study on a technological operation, for example, a turning operation on lathe machine. So the criterion for developing the better method may be different. So the criterion is not universal, but example is given, that is minimum movement of the worker on the shop floor can be one criterion. Then proper working condition can be the second criterion. Minimum production time and cost can be the third criterion. Then based on these criterion, we will try to develop a better method of doing the work. So once we have developed, then we have to define the new and improved method. Now defining has to be very, very crisp, to the point. If we start defining the method, writing paragraphs and writing books, maybe people may not be able to decipher, people may not be able to infer what exactly we want to implement. So definition must be very, very crisp and clear. So defining the improved method means to develop the written standards to follow or to establish the standard operating procedure for doing the work. Then install the new method as standard practice. Once we have developed the new method, we have to install it. Installation means that we have to start implementing the method on the shop floor or in the service industry like banking or maybe in the hotel industry. Installation is the most crucial part of every analysis or every change to incorporate. So already in the slide it is mentioned, whenever you want to propose a change, there will always be number of questions. So we have to be ready to answer all these questions. So installation is important. Once you have developed it, You have defined it, you have to install it, that is you have to put it into action, and once you have put it into action, you have to maintain the standard practice. So maintenance is also very, very important. Many times you will see it has been documented that a new method was developed, it was taking slightly more time. The workers, when they are under supervision, they are performing the work as per the standard method which has been defined and installed. But when they are not under supervision, they are using their own own method which is not as the better method which has been developed using method study. So they have their own method which may take less time, but may affect the profitability of the organization, because that may lead to certain defects in the product. But then the workers, it is easier for them to perform it that way. They are skilled, they are trained, they are doing it for so many days, the existing method. So there is a tendency among the workers to switch over to the existing method, or the method which they have been following for the last 10 or 15 years. They have the tendency to get away from the better method which has been developed using the concept of method study. So the maintenance or maintaining the SOP is very, very important. That is a standard operating procedure. So with this, I think we will conclude the today's session. The most important part of today's discussion was that how to select the work which we are going to analyze, because once you have selected the right work which you want to analyze, the right area in the organization where you want to put your efforts, rest all methods are standard methods only. And the second method is to develop a better method. How to develop the better method, that we will try to see. Maybe we will try to see certain examples, certain case studies which will help us to train our minds in that direction, that we start thinking creatively, we start challenging the norms of current norms of doing the work. We develop that kind of a thinking process, that yes, there can be better methods of doing the work than the methods that we are following today. So that is important. Just to summarize once again, that there can be three important considerations when we are going to select a particular work. So that can be the economic considerations, the technological considerations, and the human considerations, and we have tried to see that they are interrelated among each other. And if we focus on the areas where the improvement is possible, and if we are able to judiciously, scientifically, logically able to select the area or the work sphere where we want to put our efforts, it is definitely going to lead to the success of the study also, success of the organization also, and it will lead to further improvement in the profitability of the organization. So with this, we come to end of today's session. In next session, we will discuss another topic related to method study. Thank you.